Hello all. I'm Marian Feinberg. I'm a graduate student at Eastern Michigan University. I'm studying historic preservation, and hopefully, if everything goes well, I'll be done in December. I found out about this project from a former classmate and friend. She put me in touch with Sybil last summer, and she and I connected. We figured out that a lot of our interests aligned, and so I decided to join forces with her effort. I was able to negotiate an independent study for graduate credit. My mentor was really supportive and excited along the way. I had no idea that I'd get a chance to participate in every aspect of this project, and we're not even close to being done. The ribbon cutting will maybe be later this fall, winter, however long it takes. Yeah. But I ended up putting out a final paper. I kept both a binder and a digital copy of all correspondence and project binder. I helped with the 4 workshops, and hopefully at the end of this, when I have more time and energy, I would like to create kind of a case study so that this could be replicated in future projects by other people. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. So, all right. Okay. So the different things that I helped out with, I was able to document the project, the house, the tool shed. We created an inventory. I was able to do a good bit of research and taking a look at all sorts of archival and primary sources. We'll also talk about methodical deconstruction and how that plays into preservation, or at least my perspective of preservation. We'll introduce the Salvage crew. We'll talk about the workshops and kind of, some photographs of that whole process. And then I kind of talk about peeling away the layers of an onion. As we deconstructed the building, we learned more and more and more as we took it apart. So. All right, so that's my classmate Katie that put Sybil and I in touch with one another. As we saw earlier, the chicken coop, which is what was known as for a long time, became kind of a workspace, and we ended up creating a really detailed inventory and photographed all of the tools, the model making materials, and some of this ended up being sold off and helped to kind of fund the project. I photographed, every phase of the project, the outside of both the house and the additional structure, the insides, between every phase of the deconstruction work itself, and just kind of the entire experience. This is an example of what the house was considered. It was an upright and wing. Pretty common, house in this area. Nothing too fussy about it. I mean, this is just where general people, average people, salt of the earth kind of people worked. I was also able to help with, some of the social media work, and yeah. So just with any research project, I think needs to be anchored in some pretty deep research. We took a deep dive into pulling together primary sources that help to anchor, create data, topographic maps, historic maps, family photographs, any type of document. A lot of them are written in cursive, which is a dying art. But I think I might want to be one of the last generations that both writes and reads cursive. We've got an example of a newspaper clipping that actually, once we ended up pulling back one of the layers of the wall, you were able to see actually where this fire had originated, and a portion of it was cut out, but you could still see the charred. There's actually a piece of the charred lath over there somewhere. But anchoring your research with primary sources is critical, and then we flesh it out with everything else. And I mean, I helped this crew maybe 10% of the time, but I think it's important to acknowledge, they did the majority of the work. So I had to feature them here. And preservation, historically, there are 4 interventions. So just standard preservation, rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction. We don't have time to go into all of that. But what I am advocating for is that we really need to bring together a 5th option that, we live in kind of a throwaway society, and it's in vogue, I guess, to throw things away. But I really do believe, and it's not a new thing to reuse materials, but to give life to a lot of these older materials, and newer, honestly, and to keep a lot of it out of the landfill, reuse it when we can. Some things can be reused in brand new construction as well. So this right here is one of our partners right here, Chris Rutherford. He is with the Architectural Salvage Warehouse of Detroit. He won the bid, with Legacy, and they were hired to do the work. This crew right here was contracted by Chris to actually do the hard labor, and I learned a great deal by working side by side with these folks. The next few slides are just going to be a number of photographs kind of outlining the different types of, the different phases. We took that entire house down. Some different options were considered. You could torch the place. You could, bring a bulldozer in and just bulldoze, that might have been more cost effective. It would have been quicker, but we had other options because we weren't pressed and for time, and we also valued things that maybe a lot of folks wouldn't value these days. So we were willing to take the time. These were the tools we used: hammer, mallet, and crowbar, and I'm used to pretty hard labor. I grew up on my grandmother's cattle estate in southern Louisiana, and then I was a contract archaeologist for over 10 years, and that was hard work. But I'm also middle-aged now, so I could hardly walk after every day of work. But anyway, it felt good to sweat and to work as a team with these guys. So as far as the salvage and recycle side of things, it's very in line with Legacy's mission. Sybil goes way back. She, likes to preserve things, and why waste if we don't have to? So these were some of the beams that we pulled out. We were able to break down the different types of metals into various piles to recycle all of that. These were some of the doors, garage doors that were salvaged. And you can see, how many dumpsters did we, was it 3 dumpsters? 3 dumpsters. 3 dumpsters. One of them was used primarily for, we did asbestos mitigation and lead paint mitigation. So all of kind of the more toxic things went into that. We had a big bladder, and it was handled in a certain way. But we ended up salvaging one massive semi-trailer truck full of things, and several of these large flatbed trailers worth of stuff that did not end up in the landfill. It's not going to waste, and honestly, I feel better going to sleep at night. I feel like I'm maybe a little bit more part of the solution. So anyway, kind of like Silas gets cranked up about certain things, I get, worked up about this too. And this, shows, this is where the asbestos, the shingles, and I think some of the windows had it in there. It was kind of fun. I mean, you get to break things and throw, throwing things out of the upstairs window and trying to make it land. And I don't know, I'm still a kid at heart in a lot of ways. Yeah, so that's an overview of the site. we won't watch the whole thing, but it's a little video of some of the inside construction work. Kind of bringing it down to studs. That's the sparkly stuff. It's not gold at the bottom or pyrite, it's vermiculite, type of, yeah, so it's probably a good idea, you know, to wear masks. And this shows some of the cool wallpaper that we found behind the walls. And yeah, I guess this is maybe about half, you know, a halfway point. We took down the entire second story, you know, so the upright and the wing. I'm obviously like red in the face, working my butt off. This was after, you know, all stories were pulled down after rain. And even, you know, the cobblestone and such that was, the field stone that was collected from around the area to build up the cellar walls, even all of that is, it's gonna be, you know, used for, you know, putting around like landscaping and that type of thing. So all of, you know, the wires, the metal appliances and such, mechanicals, I'm sorry, that's the word I was looking for. All of that metal is going to be recycled. And then I just like that picture of Sybil. It's very cute. I know it's, you know, there were definitely ups and downs. This has been an emotional process for Sybil and for the rest of the family. It's bittersweet. So, you know, I've enjoyed being on the ride.
Got the Regis down top of the yeah. This is a solid house.
This is a solid house.
Solid house.
Yeah.
Don't make them like this no more.
Well made. And you can,
Oh yeah, on top of that, they got the wood. Well, they shot on this point, but yeah, you don't use studs like that. That's for sure. Yeah.
yeah, as we started, you know, the sun porch area, I'm not sure what you technically called it, but yeah, we started, you know, pulling the frames off, and then we started popping back, you know, the walls, and it had been sitting vacant for quite a while. I mean, just the black ants, it kind of felt like a horror film for a minute. You know, we ripped it off, and I mean, they just like thousands were spewing everywhere. I mean, just one of the many reasons the septic failed, you know, a number of things, and it would have just been difficult price-wise, I think, to have saved this place. There were animal infestation, urine, you know, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, see, these are some of my teammates. Part of my deal was to photograph, you know, the entire experience, and this was a picture of the first house tour. Down at the bottom, there's Ray. So I guess keep him in your thoughts right now. Yeah. And you'll probably recognize some of yourselves out in the audience. I know some of you attended at least some of the workshops, and some of you, all of them. And these are just a small fraction of the photographs. I mean, I have several thousand, and I will spend the summer curating those, like when I'm not in grad school full-time and working and trying to recover. I've got some back issues. Anyhow, yeah. And you know, I've helped to actually construct things before. Like I said, I grew up helping my uncles build fence and working and repairing, you know, the corrals and the barns and that type of thing. I built a ferret cage once and a chicken coop, but never have I, you know, worked backwards. And I learned so much about the building process, the different types of materials. As we pulled the walls away, you know, it's like you went from newer, older, and there you could see like a patchwork quilt of, you know, like your grandpa built a lot of things by probably picking things up on the side of the road. It was very patchwork, like behind the walls. And Sybil was in position here, and what were the most nails that you pulled out of one of the old growth timber?
I've forgotten. I had that note somewhere.
It was like well over 100 and something. One board, one board. Yeah, and we had to basically tie off some of these larger beams to the back of the pickup truck and, you know, gun it and to like knock them loose. They were so heavy. But yeah, and I just took off my work glove just so you could see for scale how wide, and you can see the hewn marks. I was just so grateful for this, you know, opportunity to work with these people, and I'll be passing it on to Legacy. So thanks.